I was glad when they said unto me, Let us go into the house of the Lord. Our feet shall stand within thy gates, O Jerusalem. Jerusalem is builded as a city that is compact together. Whither the tribes shall go up, the tribes of the Lord, unto the testimony of Israel, to give thanks unto the name of the Lord. For there are the set thrones of judgment, the thrones of the house of David. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem, they shall prosper that love thee. Peace be within thy walls, and prosperity within thy palaces. For my brethren and companions' sakes, I will now say, Peace be within thee. Because of the house of the Lord our God, I will seek thy God. The entire psalm describes the millennium. The house of the Lord, verses 1 and 9, is the house of the Lord, and it will be rebuilt, Ezekiel chapter 40, verses 46. The gates of verse 2 are literal gates. The house is a literal house. The tribes are the literal 12 tribes, verse 4, and they go up to the house to give thanks for their deliverance, spoken of in Psalm chapter 121, verse 1 to 7 and 8. The thrones of the house of David, verse 5, are the 12 literal thrones, Matthew chapter 19, verse 28, where 12 apostles will be judging the tribes that come up to worship. Peace and prosperity, verse 7, will come to Jerusalem in answer to prayer. So Gentile who prays for that kingdom to come, a Jewish kingdom at Jerusalem, Matthew chapter 6, verse 13, will prosper in this age, verse 6. It's Jesus Christ himself who says, Peace within thee, verse 8, and says this for the sake of his brethren, verse 8. See Psalm chapter 7, verse 7, and especially 22, verse 22 and 25. Jerusalem is a compact city, verse 3, in 3 respects. It's packed and jammed between 2 valleys and always has been. Living quarters have always been close. It's a God's city, so it must resemble something that he built. See Ephesians chapter 4, verse 16, like the body, which is joined together and compacted by that which every joint supplied. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 16. In the millennium, Israel and Judah will be joined together, Ezekiel chapter 37, verses 16 to 20, as one compacted unit. It's Christ who speaks peace to Israel. Haggai chapter 2, verse 9, Psalm chapter 85, verse 8, as he did in John chapter 20, verse 19, 21 and 26. There isn't one difficult line in one verse in the entire psalm. Of course we can make spiritual applications. Who can't? Someone invited you to go to church, verse 1. You had someone to go with, verse 2. You had a place to go, verse 9. And you had the right house to go, verses 6 and 9. Of course, none of this is true doctrinally. The church is not a building. Too many people in the world have a funny way of thinking that the church is some building. Especially Catholics have many churches, church buildings, which I suppose they believe it's a church, not body of Christ, like it should be. But a more fitting title for Catholic churches will be found in 1 Samuel chapter 5, verse 2, the house of Dagon. After all, every bishop that meets in a Vatican Ecumenical Council has Dagon's fish mitre on his head. That mitre is Dagon's dress, according to every pagan inscription about Dagon recorded in stone or clay before 1000 before Christ. How about the house of Baal? 2 Kings chapter 10, verse 21. Wouldn't that be better? Anyway, Catholics worship the Queen of Heaven, Jeremiah chapter 7, verse 18, and sees Ashtoreth in Judges chapter 2 verse 13, which is Baal's consort. Psalm 122 verse 9 is the house of the Lord our God. It's Israel, not one Gentile church building is on the premises.